I would like to acknowledge that I am presenting today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Lekwungen people, now known as the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, and of the Wasanich people. I think it's important to acknowledge the importance of this traditional land, especially with talking about food and agriculture and learning about these land-based experiences. If you'd like to share, introduce yourself and share the territory that you're joining in from, feel free to do so in the chat. We can send you that little native land link as well if you want to learn about which territory you're coming in from. So a little bit about Farm to School BC. We're a provincial food education program administered by the Public Health Association of BC. We bring healthy, local, and sustainable food to the plates and minds of K-12 students across British Columbia. Since 2007, we've established ourselves as trusted partners to BC schools, both funding and supporting their efforts to explore and promote food literacy and hands-on learning experiences. Our initiatives have empowered educators, engaged students, and strengthened school community connections. About me, my name is Veronique. I am the Community Food Development Coordinator at Farm to School BC. I have a background in outdoor education and in regenerative organic agriculture, which have really shaped my passion for hands-on learning around local food. And finally, we just wanted to thank a few people before we get started. Big thank you to the BC Ministry of Agriculture and Food for funding this project. Huge thank you as well to those who supported this project by sharing their experiences in these case studies. So Tanya Toth and Joe Massey from Sardis Secondary, Erin Eadsbeck from Howe Sound Secondary, Crystal Tenbrink from Squamish Can, Daniel Schulbeck from De Hagen's Adene, and Shelley Crack from Northern Health. And additional thanks to Thompson Rivers University and Kwantlen Polytechnic University in their sustainable agriculture programs who shared their knowledge and their programs as well with us. All right, so a little bit about what today will look like. We will review the resource, and then we'll have a presentation from one of our field trip recipients who went on a really cool agricultural field trip this fall. And finally, we'll have a time for question and answers at the end. So if you have any questions that come up as we go along, feel free to pop those into the chat and we can flag them so that we can return them at the end. So if you don't want to forget your questions, feel free to just throw those in there as we go. Okay, so without further ado, cultivating curiosity. So this guide is designed to help support educators in strengthening agriculture education in secondary school. It provides curriculum integration examples and guidance on developing board authority authorized courses. It highlights post-secondary and dual credit pathways in agriculture and profiles school-based agriculture programs in BC. So lots of different ways of integrating agriculture into existing curriculum and building courses as well. It offers inquiry-based ideas and seasonal activity suggestions. And finally, it shares some best practices for aligning classroom learning with the farm cycles. So our first case study here is with Sardis Secondary School Farm in Chilliwack. They began in 2012 and is run by the teachers there at the school. They offer courses at the farm through their environmental sciences class, 11 and 12, and then their course that they created, sustainable vegetable production for grades 10, 11, and 12. And so we'll profile 3 different unique case studies around the province, and each one has their different successes in ways that they integrate these into their programs. So the Sardis Agriculture Program operates in 3 main locations. They've got a classroom, a greenhouse, and an off-campus farm. In the classroom, students focus on theory and lab work, especially in science. And the on-campus greenhouse allows for hands-on plant growing experience, including preparations for their Mother's Day plant sale. And the nearby 5-acre school farm, which is within walking distance from the school, offers space for more practical agricultural learning. And at any point, if you want to learn more about these programs, we had a series of webinars in the spring highlighting each one of these schools. So if you missed those and you'd like to jump back in and learn a little bit more, we can share those YouTube links in the chat. You can go back and watch those later. So the program got started with their Mother's Day plant sale with teacher Joe Massey, who had this vision of creating this big plant sale in the spring. The planning for the school farm itself began around 2010 in collaboration with SD63, transforming an unused 5-acre plot on district land and turning it into a teaching farm. They received a lot of support from district leaders, maintenance staff, and the school board to make this vision come to fruition. The gradual development added a shed, garden beds, edible landscaping, and learning spaces for local students. And now it is a thriving educational farm featuring vegetables, berries, flowers, corn, and a giant pumpkin patch, which I'm sure in this last month has been very exciting to see. So their farm is supported by fundraisers, including their annual Mother's Day plant sale in the spring. They've got grants, community backing, and volunteer efforts. Their CSA, their Community Supported Agriculture Program, which is where members buy shares of the harvest and receive weekly produce, is one of their major fundraisers that generates income. And it also is a really great way of deepening community engagement and support because they have that direct connection with folks in the community receiving the vegetables. So during the school year, Sardis incorporates their school farm into their environmental sciences curriculum. So their environmental science 11 and 12. In environmental science 11, they have hands-on projects like learning about the medicine wheel and First Nations gardens. They learn about sustainable farming, greenhouse work, even about fisheries and forestry. And they focus on land stewardship, ecosystems, and Indigenous knowledge. And in the environmental science 12, they look at projects for irrigation, fertigation, no-till farming. They learn about the 100-kilometer diet, so local food systems and family cooking. And they focus on human impacts, sustainable land use, and ecological responsibility. Their board authority authorized course that they've created is actually a summer program, which is called Sustainable Vegetable Production, and it runs for grades 10, 11, and 12. Its creation was a really major milestone for them to unlock funding that helped them hire certified teachers and ensured a long-term sustainability of the farm. To have this time carried over in the summer is really important to sustaining the farm. It provides academic credit for the students. It's staffed by 8 teachers and supports about 165 students each summer from elementary to high school. So they have high school program and the high school students help mentor the younger students for credit. And it's a really great way of integrating the different grade levels and helps ease that transition from middle to high school, which can always be a little bit tricky. And we can pop that in the resource. You can have all these links as well, but they've got a copy of their course outline in their syllabus. So if you want to take a closer look at that, you're always welcome to jump in there. Next, we have the Downtown School Farm. So this is a newer program. They were created in 2022. And it's a collaboration between Squamish Can, so a local nonprofit, and the Howe Sound Secondary School. They run 2 main courses from their program. They have the Farm Studies 10, 11, and 12, and the Food and Agriculture and Leadership. The farm itself is located between the elementary school and Howe Sound Secondary in Squamish. Around the outside of the farm, there's an Indigenous plant garden and raised beds that are used for the elementary school. And within the gates of the farm, there's in-ground beds, both outside and inside their 100 by 30-foot greenhouse. They have a tool shed and a 20 by 8-foot shipping container that offers office space and a walk-in cooler as well. So they got started in 2021 when things were shifting a little bit and there was a focus on experiential learning to boost engagement. And they wanted to focus on practical career-oriented skill over traditional academics. And then over time, efforts were made to secure ongoing funding for a dedicated farmer to help sustain this program. And it really showed and highlighted this shift towards experiential learning, which gives an opportunity for students to become more engaged and has been shown to increase graduation rates as well. Now in 2021, so how they began with their funding, they in collaboration with Squamish Climate Action Network, Squamish Can, and SC48 through grants, donations, and raffles, they were able to raise nearly $200,000 to launch the program. And the school also supported by contributing $30,000 for staff wages. And now, 2024, so only a few years later, they have become self-sustaining through their sales of the farm and fundraising as well. And community involvement has been a really important effort in that sustainability as well. So where does the food go? As with all of these programs, Sardis as well, a lot of the food goes straight home with the students, which is really exciting to see. At the downtown school farm, the food also supports the school food program and their culinary classes. They have a seasonal farm stand from May to October, and they also have an annual plant sale in the spring as a fundraiser as well. So looking at some of their courses, they have two main board authority authorized courses. So Farm Studies 10 offers hands-on learning in the spring. So their course runs through spring and aligns activities with the work that's happening on the farm. This is run as an elective, and so they earn 4 elective credits for this course. However, they have been exploring transitioning it to an ADST or science credit. For students who have limited elective credits available, it would make it a little bit more accessible to more students. And they have the Food and Agriculture Leadership course for grades 10 to 12. So this one focuses more on the leadership aspect side of things. It runs once a week outside of school hours and earns students 4 general credits. And the focus is on leadership and community service and food systems. And they run activities like the Breakfast Club. And then finally, not one of their board authority authorized courses. However, they have created this amazing Indigenous garden project. And it was in collaboration with Squamish Can and Squamish Elders. And it was students from their Indigenous leadership program who collaborated with them in order to design and plant this culturally significant garden, and even created multilingual signage in French, English, and Squamish for the farm. And they're very beautiful, and they even have like audio recordings so you can learn how to pronounce them as well. So that was a really neat project that they were able to incorporate into their garden as well. So summer maintenance for Squamish Can, for the downtown school farm, as we saw with Sardis, they run their program in the summer, and that's sort of their summer maintenance as well. But downtown school farm does a little bit differently. In their collaboration with Squamish Can, as a nonprofit, they're able to secure Canada Summer Jobs funding each year, and that funding allows them to hire a full-time and a part-time youth under 30 for the summer work and working in that summer maintenance. And fortunately, in the past, they were able to actually hire the farm studies teacher to support that role, which ensured continuity and collaboration in their work. And our final case study here is the Garden Gather program at Dehagen's Adonai in Haida Gwaii. This program was created in 2010 with Teacher Champions, SD50, in partnership with local programs like Local Food for Schools, Northern Health Authority, and Indigenous knowledge holders. The school features a 20 by 50-foot greenhouse, which provides 1,000 square feet of indoor growing space, plus an equal amount of outdoor beds. It also operates 3 indoor hydroponic towers. But in addition to on-site produce, traditional foods are also harvested and processed for education and the school lunch program. So the school has infrastructure for post-harvest processing, including beer hanging facilities, stainless steel tables, and a smokehouse. And they've made a lot of investments into updating a lot of their facilities to have dehydrators, good knives, vacuum packers, freezers, and an industrial professional grade kitchen as well. So how this program got started, it was built on traditional Haida knowledge, was really what they wanted to highlight, the knowledge of harvesting, processing, and growing food. It was started by two teachers at the school in the English and Social Studies and Math and Sciences for grade 8 and 10, and was really inspired by the hands-on learners who thrived in land-based learning and experiential education. And so the early lessons were simply integrating some more outdoor activities into core subjects, for example, clam digging. And then it began really informally in that way. And over time, with planning, it has now been developed into what is now the structured Garden and Gather program. So very importantly with this program, building community connections and embedding Indigenous knowledge really lead the way with the way the program works and has developed. The success is really rooted in elders sharing traditional knowledge with the youth, with the teachers, and with the community. Over time, local fishermen, hunters, and harvesters, have been invited into the classroom to engage students through land-based learning. Here's where the very important connection too with local food to school, the grassroots organization that has helped strengthen connection between schools and knowledge keepers and helped invite elders into the classroom, for example, learning about traditional cleaning of Dungeness crabs and preparing those foods. Local food to school works with 7 island schools, and they really adapt their programs to the school's specific needs. So the program is guided by Indigenous knowledge and Haida values of respect. And it's really important for building community capacity and food sovereignty on the island. So Dehagan course is called Garden and Gather. This is their board authority authorized course. It is run as an elective, which is advantageous because then students are joining out of interest and are there because they're excited to be there. It focuses on hands-on and experiential learning, and the class sizes are kept small, so about 10 to 18 students max, for safety and for active participation of the students as well. And it's really an opportunity for them to build a stronger teacher-student and community relationship as well. So where does the food go? Here it's often incorporated into the school meal program. So the school meal program has gone beyond what was once seasonal salads and is now providing free hot lunches to all students 5 days a week with year-round salad bar every Wednesday. The focus is on offering healthy, consistent options while supporting local food systems. Currently, about 25% of ingredients are sourced locally, with about 5 to 10 coming directly from the Garden and Gather program. And each year, this local sourcing grows, which is really reinforces the school's commitment to nutritious and community-connected meals. So I wanted to take a moment here to read you this story from the field because I think it's a really great example of how things can start small and also giving students the opportunity to take the lead in their education and also learning from each other. So this is how one of the teachers at Dehagan's Academy began their program. When I first started, I often saw students sitting quietly in the back, hoods up, eyes glazed. They just weren't interested. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to reach them. That changed when we went to the beach. Suddenly, the same students came alive. Their focus sharpened the moment they stepped onto the sand. I remember one day especially, I turned to the group and said, I have no idea how to dig a razor clam. Can you show me? They smiled and one handed me a shovel. They showed me the technique. Sometimes I found a clam, sometimes not. But something shifted. The roles changed. Classroom barriers disappeared. That simple moment became the foundation for everything that followed. It wasn't just about clams, it was about connection. A young person and an adult, each with something to learn and offer, meeting as equals. That human-to-human bond, sparked by nature, is what truly makes this program work. So finding those little moments out on the land in the farm are really great ways to just find that connection and build that community that's so important in our schools. Okay, so we've seen these beautiful examples of these courses that have been created to integrate agriculture and food into our classrooms and secondary schools. So what exactly is a Board Authority authorized course and First Nations authorized course? These are opportunities to provide schools with flexibility to create or adopt locally relevant place-based learning opportunities. These courses allow students to explore agricultural and environmental topics while earning graduation credits. BAA courses must be approved by the local school board or authority before being offered. So it's a chance to kind of create a course that is a little bit more specific to what you are learning on the land. And later on, we'll give you some tips about creating courses and integrating farm tasks into your curriculum. But also we'll look later too at what it looks like to create one of these courses yourself. So start off with a few tips, whether you're building that full course or you're running a school farm or simply using the school garden to integrate curriculum into your existing courses. These are a few best practices that came out of our conversations with the teachers featured in those case studies that we've showed. So the first one is to design short, flexible modules. So 2 or 3 day modules that can shift with the weather or season or what's going on within the community. Next is adapting lessons to match the seasons. So as the seasons change, the lessons in the classroom can change so that you can really tie those into what might be going on the farm or in the field or out on the land. And finally, staying responsive and adaptive to the dynamic nature of farm-based learning. Things change in a second on the farm, so being able to be flexible as things change and match the needs of what's going on and what's going on with the students as well. So another way to integrate agriculture into the curriculum is to plan lessons around what's happening on the school farm or garden in a specific week. This is an example of a week in the life at downtown school farm. So they've integrated some lessons in the classroom and on the farm based on the weather and based on what's going on in the two places. So as you can see here, on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the students are in the classroom learning the parts of the seed. They're doing seed germination tests and sending the results back to the farm manager. They are dissecting seeds. And then on the farm, they're direct seeding or indirect seeding. They're learning the difference. They're completing tasks around the farm. They're learning how to start seeds and direct seeding some stuff directly in the greenhouse and performing other farm tasks like thinning carrots. And then down here is where these lessons tie back to the curriculum. So curriculum content that's involved with that, the curricular competencies, and finally those big idea competencies as well. So that's just one example, but there's lots of different ways that you can tie your week and your schedule back to the classroom and in the field, and then again to the curriculum. Now, here's some examples of seasonal activities from Sardis School Farm and Dahagansk Adane. Every program is shaped by its unique growing conditions and community context. So these are some highlights to offer ideas, opportunities, and reminders to support your planning throughout the year. That said, what you might be doing might look a little bit different depending on where you are, what you have access to, and what types of lessons you're looking to learn. But for some examples, right now we're in the fall, so some great things that you can be doing is maybe going out and foraging for mushrooms like chanterelles. Perhaps you are preparing the garden or the greenhouse for the colder winter months, so putting down some mulch, collecting leaves to put in the garden. Or maybe you're learning about disease prevention, so you're cleaning and sanitizing tools and cleaning harvest and storage areas. So just a few examples, but it can really vary depending on what's going on the farm and whether you're farming, whether you're foraging as well. So as shown in those case studies, there's many opportunities to integrate agricultural learning into the existing BC curriculum while developing learning experiences rooted in your own agricultural environments can take time. These are some examples to help you start integrating agriculture into those courses that already exist. So it takes time to create those board authority authorized courses. As you saw in a lot of those other ones, they came from just integrating into what was already there and then over time built into their own unique courses. So these are just ways to look at connecting into what you already have. So we have it broken down by grades. You can see some of the courses. We have math 8. We've got environmental sciences 11. We have culinary arts. And then looking at some of the big ideas within those, looking at the curricular competencies. So for example, in math 8, visualize to explore mathematical concepts. And then finally, the curricular content. So we'll zoom in on grade 10 in this next slide to get a little bit of a closer look here. But one thing that's really great in here as well is that we've added in these inquiries and activities. So you have these little mini lesson plans already tied into what you could be doing within some of these classes. So for example, here we have a social studies 10. The inquiry that we're looking at is, how do different worldviews influence environmental policies around wild berry harvesting in Canada, and what impacts do these have on communities today? And the activity that you can do with them is that students harvest wild berries with appropriate guidance and permissions, then compare Indigenous and settler perspectives on land use and foraging, analyzing how current environmental policies affect access, rights, and cultural practices. So this is one of the examples, but each one of those has an inquiry and an activity involved. So if you're just looking for like little nuggets to integrate into some of the courses you're already running, this is a really great place to start. So if you're at that phase where you're looking at building your own board authority authorized course, the process will vary between school district and authorities, but these are some general steps that you can follow when creating a new course. These outline some of the key stages in development that were used for the Farm Studies course at Howe Sound Secondary School. So they began by forming a collaborative team, which was to design the curriculum. It included the food studies teacher, a vice principal, a local farmer, and another staff member. Next, they developed the course content. So they created a course content for 2 new elective courses, one of which focused on leadership. So they had the farm studies and then that leadership one that we mentioned earlier. The next step is to submit it for approval. So this was the vice principal that did this, who presented the course proposals to the school board for review and approval. If you are interested in using BAA courses developed by another district, you will need approval from your own district, just so you know, in case you wanted to snag any of these, but it is possible. You just need to seek approval. Next, the school board approves the new elective courses, so you receive approval. And then finally, it's coordinating the implementation of the program. So after approval, in this case, the vice principal managed all the behind the scenes administrative tasks, which included preparing the school schedule, assigning the teaching staff, coordinating the rollout of the course. And then also, of course, once it was approved, developing the units and lesson plans within the course framework. And this was in collaboration with those teachers, promoting the program. And they promoted the program through class visits and also through the website, creating flyers that were emailed to parents and district-wide newsletters, as well as social media. All right, so another option for integrating agriculture into your classroom is to offer students the opportunity to have post-secondary or dual credit connections. So dual credit is an opportunity for grades 10 to 12 students to take post-secondary courses as electives, where they earn both high school credits and post-secondary credits. Often the tuition is covered by the school, and it's an opportunity for hands-on practical learning. So these are flexible models that can be used throughout the school year and throughout different student schedules. So in the next slide, we have a couple examples of dual credit programs in BC from Kwantlen Polytechnic University and Thompson Rivers University. So KPU has the Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems program. They have flexible options to accommodate in-person or virtually across the province. So their in-person programs run at the KPU farm in Richmond, and then they have an online Agri 1150 course. Now the Thompson Rivers program is called Regenerative Agriculture Program. Theirs is in class, online, and on the farm. Their focus is a lot on business, enterprise, and natural resource management. So you learn a lot of management skills in this program. It's also hands-on. You get to pick a ranch or a farm that you'd like to work on, and often in the regenerative agricultural world. So learning about regenerative practices. And this program is open to both high school and adult learners as well. So if you want to learn more about those, we can share those links with you and you can check out those a little bit closer. But if you don't necessarily have the facilities within your own school to integrate this agricultural learning, this is a really great route to go as well. All right, so we'll finish this resource off with some helpful tips. So as shown through the guide, there's a ton of different ways to develop your program, whether it is through creating these board authority authorized courses or those dual credit opportunities, or by weaving food systems topics into your existing classes. Our case studies partners generously shared some practical tips drawn from their lived experiences. So these are some really great insights that you can use as you plan and adapt your own approach for your school and your community. So starting off with curriculum development and teaching approach, thinking about collaborating across disciplines, so finding different teachers in different areas who might be able to collaborate to create these programs. The double blocker half day, this was really recommended for folks working on the farm because it provides students more time to get out onto the farm and have that hands-on land experience. There is transition times of getting outside and getting back inside. So if you're able to double block or give students a half day, then you'll kind of increase that opportunity to have time outside. Be flexible and adaptive. We've said it before, but we'll keep saying it because that's the way that farms go. They change, they shift, there's weather. So being able to shift things as things change. And practice builds proficiency. So giving students time to do things over and over again so that they not only learn how to do it, but they get the confidence to go off and do it on their own as well. Looking at community and volunteer engagement, engaging skilled volunteers, so inviting those folks onto your farm who might have more knowledge, celebrating milestones. It's hard work, and so celebrating those small milestones, those big ones, to like really encourage. Some of those programs took years to develop into what they are today, so making sure that you're celebrating all those steps as you go along. Collaborating with nonprofits is a great opportunity. As you saw with Squamishcan, it provided them a lot of opportunities to create their program. So that's a really great place to be if you're able to make that work. And finally, valuing local expertise. Listening to those local farmers, knowledge keepers are a really great way to integrate some of that learning into your classroom. A few more helpful tips: youth engagement and inclusivity, encouraging sharing of diverse cultural practices, so fostering inclusivity and intergenerational learning. Visiting classes in middle schools for recruitment is a great way to get the word out about your programs, and supporting students in taking the lead. And finally, policy and leadership, so working with public agencies that have shared values around education, social values, environmental values, keeping school admin involved and keeping them updated on the progress on your program, respecting cultural protocols, and involving those Indigenous knowledge keepers when working with traditional foods. And finally, embracing your mistakes. All path leads to knowledge. You will make mistakes. Farms are messy. And so making sure that you're kind of smiling along the way and letting those things happen. All right. So that is kind of the big bulk of our resource. Of course, please jump in there. There's much more than I can speak to in a short hour. And so there's lots of links in there too. So please go explore those, learn more. And we'd love to hear also about what you make. If you're looking for this resource, we'll send you a link right now. But if you're looking for it on our website, if you go to the teachers resources drop-down link here, you'll find Cultivating Curiosity. and it'll pop up over here where you can download the resource. And without further ado, I will pass it along to Emmy O'Gorman, who is a K-7 teacher at Agnes L. Mathers on Haida Gwaii. And her and her students were recipients of one of the agricultural field trip grants this fall for teachers who attended the webinar series back in the spring. 10 schools got to go out and do some agricultural field trips this fall. And we would like to hear, and Emmy's going to share with us their experience on the land. So I'll pass it along to you.
Hi.
And Emmy, you have until about 4:17, just so you know.
Okay, great. You can see and hear me okay, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, many hawas for the funding. We're able to get out onto the land from our school quite easily, but getting out onto the water, which is what we did, is quite costly and logistically difficult. So this grant really helped us bring our seaweed aquaculture study sort of full circle. And you'll see that when we go through the slides. So this first photo here that you can see was the students actually harvesting skew, which is the Haida word for red laver. I think it's nori in Japanese, actually, the name of the seaweed. I could be wrong about that. But this is the students actually going out with their scissors and learning how to sustainably harvest skew. We then dry this, which you'll see later, and we ate all of the seaweed that we got this day in our sushi bowls. That's a really common recipe that we use in our classes and in our schools, in our culinary arts programs, because we can incorporate a lot of local ingredients, and there's a lot of student choice involved with sushi bowls. So we ended up eating all of the seaweed that you can see. And if you look, you can see it sort of shining on the rocks. And that's one of the ways that we know that we're harvesting the correct seaweed. It has a really shiny appearance when the tide is low. Okay, next slide. So our unit of study, seaweeds as food crops in our home schools and communities, harvesting seaweed as a cultural activity, but also as a business. And so this was sort of our deep dive into aquaculture. How is this being done from a business perspective? Respectfully, responsibly, and sustainably. So we did seaweed-focused trips to the shorelines and the inlets, and then a lot of art and science and really large-scale projects that involved seaweed study in our ecosystem and culturally in our diet. Okay, next. So this is the students, again, harvesting skew and sort of lying it out to dry. We rinse some, we don't rinse others, and then we sort of try the difference between them. And yeah, next slide. These are some examples of the art that we did with the beloved giant bull kelp. We don't eat bull kelp in our school, but you can pickle it. But we love to play with it when we find it on the beach. And we also use it in our school gardens because the students just love dragging a piece of bull kelp back off the beach. The beach is directly in front of our school. It's sort of a fun activity. It doesn't feel like a chore. There's something about bull kelp. You get attached to your piece of bull kelp very quickly. They have human-like, I don't know, the heads and the blades. They seem like people, and so it's quite fun with little kids. We all choose a piece and bring it back and put it in the garden. So this is some of our bull kelp art. Next. So I thought I would highlight on my slide what were the challenges of a field trip where we're studying aquaculture and we're going out onto the water. The challenges are many, and I don't recommend doing this type of field trip if you are not passionate about it, or if you're quite an anxious person. I mean, healthy anxiety is good, but there are a lot of variables. And so some of my challenges were funding, which Farm to School graciously took care of. I also did receive some private funding for this trip because it did exceed the $1,000. Logistics, so getting the students to the docks, where we were being dropped off, where we were being picked up, what times, tides, what were the tides doing, those types of things. So there are a lot of little details that are, particular to the trip that you're doing, but there are a lot of logistics. I love logistics, but if you don't, then you may want to get help maybe from somebody who does. Permission slips. So going on the water is a high risk field trip. Those have to go out well in advance of the trip. It's recommended that they're signed at least 2 weeks prior, which makes it difficult. If you look at the next bullet point with weather, going on the water, obviously it's currently blowing over 100 kilometers an hour on Haida Gwaii. I'm looking out the window and it's just dancing outside. We're having a huge storm right now. So if I do get cut off, it's because the power's gone out. But weather is a big one for us. We usually know what's coming, but it can really sort of shut down a trip, and it has before. So just to have a solid plan B or to have flexibility in going on another day. So that's all part of logistics, having that in place. Shore safety and boat safety as well. So good footwear. Slipping, I would say, is the #1 cause of injury when we go out onto the beaches and harvest. It's very slippery. So making sure the kids have good footwear. Life jackets, PFDs, we provide from the school, make sure they're all a good fit. And then the culturally respectful learning also is a challenge, to not just dive in and do whatever you feel like, but to make sure that you're doing it respectfully and the proper way. Next. So this was our boat. This is what we chartered a landing craft boat. Landing craft means that the boat almost has like a ramp that can open up. And so the kids can just sort of walk down the ramp onto the beach. In some cases, our ferry is like that too. Maybe it means something else. That's how I understand it anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And so we took this landing craft from our local marina out to the village of Haina, which is an island nearby. It was about a 20 or 30-minute boat run. And as you can see, the weather cooperated, which is really nice for October. Next slide. I'll go through the slides quickly and then you guys can ask questions. That's more interesting. So this is the kelp forest where we went and learned about harvesting on water. Again, my students and over the years have only ever harvested from shore. So this was a really neat experience for us to actually go and see not kelp that has washed up, but kelp that's actually in the living forest. And so in all 3 of these pictures, the top picture, we're looking down on the kelp forest from a high point, and the other 2 pictures were actually on the water in the kelp forest. Next. So with my field trips, I always incorporate Haida language, and I use the same scavenger hunt repeatedly. I photocopy it, we take it to where we're going, and then a lot of sort of Haida language food words we work on, and the kids are really retaining the language. So I always take clipboards in my yellow milk crate, very high-tech gear, and a Ziploc bag with pencils and erasers. And I always take blank paper as well for them to do landscape drawings or botanical drawings, anything like that. So this is sort of how we incorporate the Haida language piece into my work, and the students will draw what they find or see on the trip. And so in this case, we saw everything that was what was on the page. So that was good. Next. So this is the cultural aspect. So the kelp forest is right beside the village of Haina. We were actually looking at it from the island that you can see in the background. When the tide is low, you can go get over to that island. There are some burial sites on the island that the students respectfully visit as well, from some chiefs who have passed. And the pole that you see is just, you can see these 2 things in the same frame, basically. They're right across from each other. And so the kids got to go up and have a close look at the pole, and we talked about the village of Haina, which means Sunshine Village. The sun was shining, and what the different crest figures represent. And one of the little Haida students in my class said, "Well, I'm Haida." And we said, "Yeah, you are." And it was just really lovely that he was making the connection in situ on the beach. And, I could see him sort of processing that. So it's just a small thing, but when you're 5, it's a big thing. And when you're a teacher, it's a big thing too. So I thought that was a really neat moment to bring the kids out there. And then to talk about like, how long has this kelp forest been here, and how long have people been harvesting respectfully from, this kelp? So it's sort of, you go into deep time a little bit. And on the deep time note, there are also fossils everywhere around this village. And so it really made us talk about time and how we understand time. And that's always an interesting sort of philosophical, deep idea, connecting math and history and all those things. Next. Try and go quickly here. So we have books as well that we connect to. So skew is the Haida word for the seaweed that we're harvesting off the rocks. And so here we've got the 2 Haida dialects, Masset and Skidegate, and just talking about the different words, and we try and use them in situ. Next. I'll just go quickly through these. And same thing, gathering. And so the herring eggs on kelp that they're gathering that this was the type of kelp that we were actually visiting on this day. I've got a piece of it here in front of me. And so that was kind of neat too, because we eat gao in our class. And so for them to see where it actually comes from was a neat connection. Next. There's the kelp. So we like to, play with it, and we hollow it out. We do science. We're making kelpo lanterns this week, carving little faces into it. And yeah, so this was a big pile of wash up. So this had come free. The holdfasts had come up. And so this was unanchored kelp, which is quite a find, and it's the best fertilizer. And so when we're able to get some out of the pile, we always bring it back for our gardens. Oh, yeah, sorry, there was another thing there about how traditionally in the old Haida villages, you can see the potato patches in front of the houses in some of the old pictures. And the seaweed would have been brought up and put right on top of the potato, the scouset patches. And so it was just a neat connection, because we're also using it to grow potatoes in our garden, Haida potatoes, scouset, and among other vegetables. So again, going into deep time and history and feeling connected in that way. Yeah, that's what happened with one of the pieces in our garden. So you can see that we're bringing the kelp. We get a lot of wash up this time of year, and we have started our winter seeds. So on the bottom left, we've got kohlrabi and leeks and Brussels sprouts that we planted in October. And they will grow slowly through the year in our climate. A lot of you are on the coast. I shouldn't say most of you, and know that we can definitely grow winter crops. So that's always neat to introduce kids to, and then using the seaweed in all of our beds to help with growing as well. Next. And then cooking. And so we actually went with a local business owner, Wild Foods of Haida Gwaii, North Pacific Kelp. So I can't see myself, but hopefully you can see these. This is the packaging that the seaweed comes in, and this is locally harvested on Haida Gwaii. And so Romero, who also took us out on the boat, came to our classroom as part of this field trip. And we made pancakes with the kelp powder. And then we also use blueberries that we harvest ourselves. We have a gracious blueberry farmer on island who lets us harvest our year's supply of blueberries each fall. And so we were using the seaweed and the blueberries together. So the agriculture and the aquaculture in the same meal. And then the kids rated I brought one of the rating sheets here. I always like to connect the senses so they remember it better. And this child rated their pancakes 10,000 out of 5 because they were so good. Every single student gave the pancakes a 5 out of 5. So that was really, really cool to open them up to that, to be able to use it in something they love. That might be the last slide, actually. Let's see. One more. There we are. Yeah. And so the large Ziploc bags are the seaweeds that we actually harvest ourselves. We ate all of ours, but I brought mine from home because I still have some. And so the students are holding that up, and and just sort of, yeah, examining it and looking at it as a harvestable crop that we have on our beach and also in the ocean that surrounds us on Haida Gwaii. It's very nutritious. And I think that's all.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. What an
Yeah.
exciting experience that your students got to have. And so cool to see the different ways that you were able to integrate their learning into the field. I really love the
Mhm.
idea of like bringing clipboards out for the students. That's such a nice way to get them drawing and connected right there on the land rather than like doing it back in the classroom. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we jump into questions, I just wanted to share there were 10 schools that went out this fall, and there were just some really exciting opportunities that happened. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. We had schools going to do on local farms. So here on Vancouver Island, we had a school go to the Sandown Center for Regenerative Agriculture. They got to see the sheep and the farm growing that's going on there. There were schools that went to local orchards, and I just wanted to like we're just receiving all of they're finishing up their field trips right now, and their emails are coming in. And we got one just before we started this. I want to read like a tiny little snippet of it to you because it just sounds like they had such an awesome time. Um, but a little bit of a story from them was the moment that stood out most was when the group of students discovered a patch of nodding onions. Their excitement was immediate. They knelt down to observe the plants closely, noticing the shape, scent, and the way they grew in clusters. One student connected it to a story we had learned earlier about how Indigenous communities cultivated and cared for these plants for generations. In that moment, I could see the learning deepen from intellectual understanding to genuine respect and curiosity. The discovery opened a conversation about reciprocity, restoration, and the resilience of Indigenous agriculture. Indigenous agricultural knowledge, concepts that felt suddenly alive and tangible to all of us. So that was just like so exciting to see that come in, and it's been really fun to see all these stories arriving. So thank you so much for taking the time to take students out on the land. Yeah, it's a really exciting place to see all those learnings happening. So we will open it up to all of you out there in the universe. If you have any questions, I will jump back in on the other side here so that I can see your questions in the chat. So these can be questions about the resource for us. It can be questions about those case studies in the schools, or if you have questions for Emmy and about their field trip experience, this is your chance to jump in and ask those questions. And I will scroll back to see if I missed any. Oh yes, Marcus and I were both wondering about this, of where those illustrations came from, Emmy, in your presentation.
I don't have the book at my fingertips, but there is a picture of the cover of the book on the first slide of the illustrations in the top left corner.
Let's see. Let's see if I can jump back to it here. Oh, there.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, ocean food. And
Ocean food.
yeah, and I actually don't know, maybe somebody else on here. I don't know if Dan and Shelley are on here, but there was nothing on the back of the book that said where it came from either. So I just took a picture of the cover, but I'm not sure
Nice.
where it's from. It's a fantastic book though. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And someone was asking what the name of the seaweed company was. Oh,
Yeah,
you've
so I
got the
put
answer
that
in
in the
there. Okay.
chat, North Pacific Kelp Wild Foods. And so there's giant kelp flakes, there's powders. This is the lasagna kelp. I was a culinary arts food and nutrition high school teacher for many years. And we would use this to make our halibut lasagnas with a white sauce. So we would use this in our seafood lasagnas, and it was amazing. Really, a really neat way to use it. Yeah, good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, of course, if you have questions that come up later, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions that you may think of. But we will move on to our next slide here. Wanted to share just a few more resources that we've created um, over time. And one that's not on this slide that I noticed that Marcus put in the chat is our Edible Adventures resource. So that is a resource to help support creating these. If you felt inspired by that story of Emmy or those field trips, it's a resource to help create food field trips and school feasts. And so that will kind of help guide you in creating those experiences for your students. And we just launched that in September. We have the Learning from the Land toolkit here, which connects K-12 schools to Indigenous plants pedagogy. The hands-on food resource is an online resource for educators using food to teach BC curriculum. So lots of awesome lesson plans in there if you're looking for some ways to incorporate lessons into your curriculum. And finally, the guide to growing a school farm. So sharing lessons from different school farm models. If you're looking to build a school farm, this is a really great place to start to get some ideas. And then just finally, thank you once again to everyone who was involved in creating this resource for the funding from the Ministry of Agriculture of BC and the schools that participated and the teachers and partners that really shared all of their stories to create those case studies that were highlighted in this resource. And again, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here. We're really excited to share this resource with you and proud of what we were able to put together. If you'd like to download the resource from the website, we'll put the link in the chat one more time there for you. You can follow us on social media or sign up for our newsletter, which is a really great way to stay connected. And finally, thank you again to Emmy for sharing your knowledge and your experience on that wonderful field trip you went on. So I'll let you all move on to the next parts of your day. Megan, did you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of these resources that you've put together and to the presenter and the field trip. I am just a parent who wants to see our kids out in the dirt, and so this is wonderful to have exactly what we need to advocate at our schools and through our packs to do this, which I think is the co-benefit and the solution to so many different things. So I just wanted to really express my appreciation for the work that went into this and to say that I hope that we will be feasting and growing a lot of stuff here in Saanich School District in the future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. We really appreciate hearing that. Yeah, it's a lot of work we put into these resources, and it's so nice to see that they're being used and appreciated, and that there's folks out there who are excited about them just as much as we are.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you all being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your evenings.